The planning service or the planning optimization service is a new capability you do find in Preview at the moment. And we like to use this opportunity to, talk about it, to explain the architecture that you are informed about this new capability. All right. So what we like to cover is we like to make you understand of the new planning optimization service. We make you aware what is the architecture and have a general overview about it. We like to explain the service fits analytics because that helps you to understand if your current master planning configuration is made for using this new capability. At the end, we go and talk about the roadmap. So that's an achievement as well. What we are not covering today is details about master planning configuration. That means master planning process itself, so why it's needed and what's the setup in the background. That's not getting explained today. If you are interested to learn more about this, I kindly ask you to visit the tech talk, which is available on demand. I think it's a tech talk which is about 2 weeks old, where colleagues of me, explain the basics of MRP. You will find the link inside the presentation, and as usual, you're getting access to the presentations as soon the uploading is done. All right, let's have a look to the agenda. So, as I already told, first item is overview and architecture. And second, we're going to the customer scenarios. And by the way, that's a real customer scenario we do have. It's not something which is faked or which is somehow not real. Third, we like to help you to understand how to get started. So where you find resources, what is the way to move forward. On the fourth item, Wham is going to demo. He's demoing the LCS add-ins. That could be new for you. I mean, you will see it in a demo that we do have the opportunity now to install add-ins inside LCS. So I kindly ask you to just pay attention when Wham is demoing something. We do need this add-in to connect our service via LCS. And he's going through the application, shows how the service is working, shows how to configure, how to start, how to handle activities, but that's later. And at the end, we do have roadmap information for you that you do know, okay, what's next? What is our roadmap to be done? That we do have all clarity around this feature. Okay, so let's get down to the overview and architecture. Why we do have a planning service now? I mean, there is a master planning opportunity in place, and at the moment it's of course possible to calculate and to execute those planning executions. But those of you who have projects which are using this capability do know that this is a heavy load on the SQL. It's a heavy load operation. So this is something we do know. I mean, we do have telemetry, we do see where we do have the highest peaks on each environment, and master planning, comes out as the most critical, most heavy load in an environment. So with this planning service, we are trying to reduce the load on the SQL during master planning run. So that means we are trying to get rid of the executions on our ERP service. Our motivation is to provide faster master planning, right? Especially for large data sets. So when we are thinking about the master planning, which is taking 8 hours at night to be done, that's a very long time, especially when the business is growing, when you're adding more companies, more legal entities, and you're running maybe 24/7 operations. The time window where you do have time to execute master planning is less and less and less, right? So our answer to this scenario is a service which is taking care about this. The third motivation we do have is that we, as Microsoft, like to introduce new capabilities in planning. So with this service, we are more flexible in shipping new features inside master planning. So that means at the moment when we like to introduce new capabilities in MRP planning, we do have a very long time until we do have a new continuous update. And then, you as a customer or as a partner, you need to consume the update, you need to compile it, you need to check against your extension. So you need to test, other, so all the stuff needs to be covered. Which is very, long time for us. So with this capability, we will be able to, switch on and switch off and add functionalities which is required to execute a fast planning service. So we will be able to add functionality independent from your ERP, right? So that's a huge benefit for us. You need to understand that the whole architecture and the whole functionalities will not be there from day one. So that means you cannot go crazy with your complex scenarios you do have and leverage the service. We built, as I told, an analytics service which let you know if your scenario is made for this planning service. But this story is not done when we are going GA. We are building up new capabilities after until we reach the complex scenarios, right? So you need to understand that we are built ground up, but it's not available everything from day one. Okay. So at the end, you will see when I'm following with my presentation that we are getting, the whole execution of MRP out. But let's continue with the presentation here. And the idea is that we do have near real-time planning versus a nightly planning runs. So our motivation is not only to reduce the execution time at night. Our idea that we do have a proper bulletproof service in place, which allows you to execute MRP planning during the day, during business hours, multiple times. So let's assume we do have a service in place, which will be able to get this heavy workloads done within minutes instead of hours. So let's see what this is about. When we're thinking about MRP planning and master planning execution, we do have at the moment a very long waiting time during the day until the next planning run is getting executed. So normally the execution is happening around 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. depends on the time zone and depends on the business you're in. But that's normally the period in time where we do see planning is getting executed. Okay, so the planning run is getting executed, and the planning, you need to wait until the planner comes back to office. So he's maybe coming back into an EMEA time zone at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning, and then he starts working, and you're receiving orders, but you need to wait until the next MRP run is getting executed. So there's a very long lead time until you do see the result. Okay, so and with this service, the service of executing this plannings does not requiring a very long lead time, right? I mean, you can trigger the run by order. So that means as soon as an order is coming in, you can kick on the new plan executions and you're getting the results back within minutes. So that means you will be able to skip the whole lead time you do have at the moment by waiting until master planning is getting executed. You can just go and execute this 15 times every 50 minutes, or every time it's required, right? Because execution time is quite fast. So that gives you a huge opportunity of an updated dynamic plan, right? Which is close to real-time insights to required changes on the supply side, as well on existing orders. So every order you're creating, every requirement you're creating will be taken care of directly near real-time and not at night. So that's a potential saving you're getting. You do have an improved sales by reducing the total lead time. Means you can easily ship your products faster because you know where it's required. You do not need to wait until nightly plan is done. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's talk about the architecture. The architecture is that you do have supply chain management in place, that you can trigger the planning run from the client, and the client is receiving signals back from the service. So the client is here the browser you're using. I mean, that's the browser of choice. Then we do have the database, we do have the connector, and we do have the planning service itself. So as soon the planning service is triggered, the connector goes and grabs data from the SQL database, is bulk copying data into our servers, which is made for planning, which is optimized for planning execution, is executing the planning, and then use the connector to drop in the results into the ERP database. Okay, so we do see that there is a load, there's a moment in time where we are bulk copying data, and then we do see a moment in time where we bulk import the results of the planning execution. So that's all we do have, and the connector is in place, is used, the connector gets connected to the ERP by using the LCS add-in. WAM will talk about this in a minute. So yeah, that's the general architecture we do have in the background. What about extensions? So in the old days, you know, there was a possibility to overlayer and to change code, and that's all done, right? We do have extension points at the moment. That means you do have points where you can add your customizations. But with this standard service we do have, the whole service is without no code changes. So that means the planning execution itself is completely black box for you as a customer and for you as a partner. So we will not be able to somehow inject your code snippets, your code into our service. That's all, not possible. We need to have a reliable service, which is not, dependent on customizations, dependent on whatever, right? It's our property. And we only can guarantee the fast execution when we do know what will happen. But to help you to be a little bit more flexible, you will have opportunities to get extensions pre-processing, right? Before planning is executing, you can add your extensions. And you do have opportunities to have a post-processing. So as soon the planning is done and the results are available, you can go and create your extensions to, modify the results or to change something, that you can work on the result you got out of the planning service, but not directly inside a service. We are planning to have support flow of additional information so that you can have a complex configuration maybe to tell the service to react in a different way. So it's about configuration and changing behavior, but it's not about having an extension inside our service. That's very important to know. And our long-term roadmap that we do have a flexible service that's not only support the input from finance operations apps. We like to have a service which is, able to be used by external input as well. So that at the end, it doesn't matter if you're using a FinOps or if you're using another competitor application, you can plug it in and can execute MRP runs. That's our long-term goal where we like to go to. Okay, so what's the price? That's the next big question we do have, and that's a good question because this planning capabilities we do have here comes without extra charges. So that means this planning service or the planning optimization service is included into your current license. Into your current license means you need to have subscriptions for Dynamics 365 supply chain management, or you do have a license for Dynamics 365 for finance and have an attached license for supply chain management as well. So you need to have this supply chain management application licensed, and then you do have access to the base functionality. In the future, we might add additional functionalities which might come with additional charges. So that's not clear when this will happen and how this will look like, but that's just an idea we do have internally, that we might have premium services, premium functionalities, which then might require additional charges. Maybe think about a scenario which is not common for all customers, which is common for specific, for specific customers, which is requiring more architecture in the background or more SLAs, whatever, where those kind of functionality might come with additional charges. But that's not there. Just to give you a heads up, what is coming. Okay, a customer scenario. So let's think about a production, a company, where we do have a production company in Asia and the main distribution center in Europe. So from here, the customer brand is transferred to 57 stores across Europe, based on the demand of around 10,000 variances. Besides external, these brands are planned for direct delivery to the stores. So that's a scenario we do have in place. And as I told at the beginning, it's not a fake scenario. It's something we are running. We do have at the moment in preview available. And this is the feedback and the telemetry we do see based on our new capability. Okay, before we go to look into the future or what is in preview, let's look what is happening at the moment without or before planning optimization. So before, as I told at the beginning, we do have a very long wait time until the execution is happening at night. Right, that's all known. They have a long runtime on the big SQL, maybe 8 to 9 hours. So that was the gathering, and we together So Microsoft, together with the partner, together with the customer, including engineering, we went and fine-tuned the execution of the current capability. And it was possible for us to reduce the time of execution to 1.5 hours. That is good progress, but still it's a 1.5 hours, and you need to wait the whole day or a lot of hours until you're hitting the quiet business hours where you're able to execute heavy batch jobs. Okay, so and with our planning service, we got this result. Okay, so the same scenario, the same customer, the same demand, same item variances. We enabled our servers, we plugged it in, and we went to 1 minute execution time on the same SQL size. Okay. So when you think about a smaller SQL, then we went to execution of 2 minutes. That means the SQL service doesn't matter at the end. It's still crazy fast. The time the time why it's a little bit slower is that we need to bulk copy out of the finance operations apps. So our servers as well take care about the amount of data is running crazy. And you will see that allows you then to execute this planning service several times a day as soon as required, near real time. So and please go down to this slide and use it and consume it by yourself, because you do see what kind of great opportunities you have, right? Cost and capital savings, right? You can reduce the stock around 25 to 50% because you do know where your items are required. You do not need to have a maximum stock of, I don't know, 150 quantities, because you do not need to know what's happening at night or what is happening across the world with your demand. You do see the demand, every 50 minutes, which is awesome. You can increase the sales because you can ship your products much faster, and you have improved customer service with shorter lead times. You can go for 24/7 delivery. So those kinds of options are possible. Right? You just have a look to it and think about how you can use this opportunity to grow the business. And the last sentence here is quite important, because that you have the comfort that future business growth will not overload the planning system or cause long run times. Let's think about we are starting with an implementation which is very small. We have 2 legal entities, and not every company is working on MRP. And 2 years later, you're adding more companies, you're adding more items, you're adding more transactions. All of a sudden, you're hitting a performance issue on MRP planning because your window of execution got longer and longer, and other batch jobs got executed. So, and then you do have a dependency on that. And with this service, you completely don't need to care about this, because our service is made for handling very high volumes. Okay. Customer benefits, I talked a lot about it. Just have a look. We did an overview about it. Eliminate daily time, right? Until you need to eliminate the waiting time until the batch job is getting executed, right? Comfort business growth, more frequent planning runs. So it's not made for daily execution or weekly execution. It is made for having an execution every 50 minutes or as soon an order gets created, whatever, right? You can configure. How to get started. So how to use this functionality. At the moment, we are in private preview. That means you will not find opportunity to join public preview, but we will be available. We will be able to kick off the public preview soon, so within the next weeks. Okay, so stay tuned and go and use the public preview soon it's available. You can go and test on, so as soon as you join the preview program, you will be able to test on test environments, okay? So non-production environments. What is important to know that you have to have a tier 2 sandbox in place, or a tier 2 plus sandbox. So this service will not be able to connect on a dev box. So no closed hosted environments, no tier 1 in Microsoft managed. Hopefully that's used as a build server anyway, but but you have to have a tier 2 plus sandbox in place to enable the service. So selected customers are invited on live environments, right? I mean, there we do have, there we do have a group of engineers which are swarmed and around the customer, which are monitoring the execution, and then we do have them executing in production, but only for very separate selected customers, because we like to be very careful of adding new functionality. We like to test ourselves. We like to learn. We like to get feedback, and then we're opening up for more customers. We don't like to get this feature out for every customer around the world. That's not possible for us. We like to get it in a controlled way. You need to then install the planning optimization add-in from LCS, where we'll talk about it in a bit. And as usual, informations are getting shared on docs, on Yammer, right? So stay tuned on your on the resources you do know to join this preview. There's a Yammer group already in place, so when you go to search on it, you will find it. Assume you're a PEEP, right? When you're a partner preview early adapter program, and when you're a joiner, you will find there's a Yammer group, and you can go in and start talking about it. All right, so let's go to demo. Let's go to demo, and let's go and have a look to the LCS add-in and how it gets installed. Wham, the stage is yours if you'd like to take over.
Yeah. Yes, let me start sharing my screen, and then we should be good. Let me know how it goes. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, thank you. So what I like to basically go through is how do you install the add-in from LCS. Now, in order to do that, right? Yeah, because this is still in preview, soon there will be a public preview released. What is going to happen that once the public preview is in place, from the environment page to the LCS, you would be able to see a tab called environment add-ins. And under that, you will be able to see the new install new add-in button. So when you click that, you will be provided with the options of different add-ins, whatever is available. Okay, I think probably there is some screen resolution at my end, but this is the second one, which is calling the planning optimization. Okay, you need to click on that, and basically there are preview terms to agree. So you need to click on that, go through it, and if you accept all of them, just click the checkbox that you accept and agree to those terms, and you need to click install. So once you click install, what happens? Basically, the planning optimization service add-in gets installed. It's basically, it will change the status, and once it is successfully installed, I have an environment already prepared with, so we don't spend time on that. So if you see that it gets installed, then you get the buttons to uninstall and manage it. So manage basically takes to the documentation, basically. And that's how you basically install the LCS add-in. And why that is required, right? Because the planning service works outside the ERP application, and it's the service on our Azure, managed and maintained by Microsoft. So that's how we basically proceed with installing the LCS add-in. So Severin, over to you then. Severin, or you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm here. All good. I just need time to find the mute button and share my screen. You're able to see my screen again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that was demo 1, installing the add-in. We are going down to the second demo of today. That's running the optimization fits analysis. So that means we build a functionality to cross-check your configuration you do have at the moment in the area of master planning. We like to check your configuration of items, etc., etc. So what's the level, what the BOM levels, etc. So based on this result, we, sharing if you will be able to use or not. So what dependencies you do have, and yeah, Wham, let's take a look to it.
Okay. Yeah. So back again, and basically we'll look at how the planning optimization fit analysis looks. So in order to go to reach this menu item, it's basically under modules, master planning, and then under setup, you have this planning optimization fit analysis. Now what, as Severin mentioned, right, this is to ensure. So once you're in the form, you click the run analysis. So it's basically what it looks at any inconsistencies related to the planning optimization service, so it provides a list of things which currently is probably not honored by the planning optimization service. But as mentioned, once we go with the service built up, we will be able to support all of this. So at the moment, if you see the first one, right, production items with bomb level greater than 0. So there are 56 items where they have bombs which has more than 1 level. It means that basically currently our planning optimization is only targeted for distribution and not for manufacturing. So as and we progress, when it gets supported, you would basically see less and less of those inconsistencies with your current setups. It doesn't mean that you cannot use the planning optimization. It's just that, when you use the planning optimization, it will not honor your current setup. So example, if you have this production bomb lines, when you run the planning optimization, it will basically, instead of creating any planned production order, it will just create planned purchase orders for that. So that's the thing to notice here. Again, if you see actions, like coverage group, where actions calculations enabled. So there are 6 coverage where we have configured actions. And what does it mean? Basically that current version doesn't support that. As and when we add the capabilities, this should be basically eased out. Okay, that's a short and sweet explanation around how to run the planning optimization and how do you understand. There is a docs article also which will be provided into the tech talk, which you can refer to it. Okay, Severin, back to you.
Okay, I will do. So that was tech demo 2 for having looked at the analysis. Can you see my screen again?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So demo 3 today is, the service by itself. So when we go and play around with choosing the planning engine, play around with filters, update the plan from net requirements. So just give you an idea and demo how the service can be handled and how it's how it is, inside our current application. So Wem, are you ready to demo?
Yes. So back to me again. Great. Sharing. Okay. So what we'll look at in today's demo right here, we'll look at how the planning engine basically gets configured, then working with the filters and so on. So I'll just straight away go to the demo. So what I'll do is, again, in order to use this planning optimization service, the important thing is that your add-in should be installed successfully. And in the beginning, when you come to the master planning setup, you should be able to find the planning optimization preview parameters. Once you click on this parameters, parameter form opens. And in the beginning, it will be basically disabled, okay, because I have already done. I'll say no here, I don't want to change. So what is the important thing to understand here is that the connection status, when you in the beginning will set getting the status, then it will basically switch to connected, or if it issues, it will basically remain that. And then so the important thing is that it needs to be in connected states. Once it is connected, you enable it. Now this is the connection status is for the first time. So in between, like once you have started to use the service and you want to disable it and switch back to the traditional built-in engine for MRP, you could basically just disable it and continue on that model. The status will remain still, connected. And also the note here is basically that, if you want to disable it, please be sure that none of the users would be using it. because it's not a legal entity specific. It's a global setting here. Okay. That's important to understand. And basically, what I'd like to show once it is enabled, how does that change basically? So again, I will go to the master planning. I have saved it to favorites, most of the things. So I want to run. Now, if you see the changes here, so it doesn't go to the traditional thing. It comes back to the planning optimization. And once you click OK, it basically will call the service. I will not do it now, but continue in the next one. Okay, so that was about the planning engine. The next topic, what I want to talk is basically about the planning with filters. Once you have enabled the planning optimization service, you have the possibilities to basically switch between the which provide a plan filter on the plan itself, which will ensure that it is honored during the runtime. Okay. Now, in order to do that, I'll just quickly show you what does it mean. Okay, so I have created a master plan. This is, I will not explain the rest of the setup because that's not relevant here. You could use an existing plan, just copy the same setups. The important thing here is that there is a plan filter which gets enabled, and this will be only honored when you're running the planning optimization service. So when you click on the plan filters, you could basically set up the filters for that. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm basically filtering all the items which belong with begins with M. Okay, so that's the purpose. And what I may be a planner which is very relevant to specific items, and that's out of my concern. So I basically want very specific plan for working with my own items and looking at the demand for them. So that's the first setup. Okay, now if I go to master planning, I will select. So that is what you say the configuration time plan filter. If you see, I'm not adding anything here. I will just click OK. And if you see, it's basically the planning optimization service is working now. So that means it's connected to the service, basically pushing the data there, working on it, and the results will basically be completed and shared with us. So it is important that, to understand the applied filter and the runtime filter. So you can add more things to it on the runtime filter, which I will show. It will ask you whether you want to leave any history log. I will say no at the moment. You see the messages basically getting populated. I'll just clear there. Okay. I'll go to my planned orders. Select the respective plan what I've run. So if you see, it basically has filtered all the items which begins with M. So this basically means that you can have your own plans with the specific filter. Now the other thing what I wanted to show is like how basically you can use runtime filter with it. Okay. So in order to do that, I will again go to master planning, use the same plan. What I'll do is I'll basically include a filter again on the item number. This time what I'll put like anything ending with 1. I just want to show you like what we have said, the plan filter is any items beginning with from M. And here in the runtime, I'm putting the filter as anything which is ending by 1. We'll click OK. I'll run it. And while it is running, what we are expecting basically that, at this moment, we'll only be able to see, we'll not be able to see anything which has been applied on the runtime filter because the items, the plan filter is from M star beginning, and it's basically the crossover thing, or like the runtime filter and the switch filters are not basically getting intersected and not being applied. Okay, I'll just look at this, clear all, go to the planned orders. If you see, I just need to you see there is no change. What my expectation here would be that I want any item starting from M and ending with 1. So I will just, you have to delete, the previous run, just to show how the intersection works on the plan filters. And I will go and run my master planning again to show the intersection. So M and ending with 1. So it's completed. Go back to my planned orders. And if you see now, the list is very sorted. So all the items starting with M, but ending with 1. And that's how the results will work. So the examples of the intersections are like if I have item A, B, and C, right? And if the runtime filter is specified to D, then no items are planned for that particular plan because there is no, because the items starting with D or, basically are not part of the plan filter. But if I select the runtime filter to include A and D, then only A will be planned, while D is still not planned because it is not part of the plan filter. And if I run the filter for the item B, then it will basically only include the B number items, and it will retain the previously A items which were planned. Okay. And if I run it blank, then based on my plan filter where I've selected 3 items A, B, C, all the 3 items will be considered and the plan will basically provide the results for those 3 items only. So this is how basically you look into it and use the plan filters. Allows the specific planners, to have their unique filters and honor their requirements around it. Okay, so I'll just go back to the slide now, just to see what's next. Yeah, and then we'll basically, so what I like to take you now with is like, like how the planning optimization service works with the updating of net requirements and the pegging between the supply and demand. So this is like just to show how the existing framework still works with planning engine. Going back quickly to release products. Same, so I've already filtered, like for this M1 item, I go to plan, net requirements, and I click update planning. I use the Dyna plan. I click OK. So if you see, right, it basically moves to the planning optimization service. So it's basically once you have enabled the planning optimization, everything will follow that service. Yeah, the results are basically, and you can see, how that basically is generating the different things. Okay. I'd like to move to the next thing. Basically, I will change it to standard view. Okay. And I'll D00. I'm selecting an item to show the pegging information, just, like this is the item. Okay. I'll go to my planned orders. And we'll select static plan in this case because I've run that. Would like to filter for and I'll just select one particular planned orders in the pegging sales order. Okay, so the pegging information is retained there. I will now move to another item. And what I like to look at here is the pegging information. Now, if you see in the pegging informations, what I have BOM line, then the plant Kanban line, safety stock. So what we want to show that it basically honors all the demand types which are currently supported in finance and operations. So it doesn't exclude anything. Okay. Just that from the manufacturing point of view, you can't have a plant production order created, but it will be converted to a plant purchase order. That's the only part here. Yeah, moving to the next topic is basically auto firming. In here, basically what I like to show you, like basically the setup around the product, what I'm going to use and how that works. So my item is PS2 3 zeros. Or did I put? Yeah. So what I want to show here about this product is the setup around item coverage. So what I've said is configured is that, this basically it has two warehouses. Okay, the first one is the main warehouse for receiving through purchase orders. So that's my purchase order. I've set up a lead time there also. Okay. And then the second is basically the selling warehouse. Okay. What I want to basically ensure, like in here, I've basically set it to transfer. So that means, from the main warehouse, it will be transferred to this warehouse, and I've overridden the time fences here. So automatic firming time fence, I've put like 5 days. So I have not changed this on the master plan on the coverage group, but I just wanted to demonstrate it how that firming will work. It depends upon your unique configuration requirements, and that could be configured from that point of view. So just quickly go to the sales order for this item. So I have 3 sales order basically I've created, which is 812, 813, and 814. I'll just quickly demonstrate, what are the delivery dates I've basically put into it. So this one I have planned for, like yesterday's date it is, 20th. I should change it to today's date just to, make it much more. Okay, delivery date control is none at the moment for this demonstration. Okay. Similarly, the next sales order. So that is 22. Still okay for me. Delivery date control is none. And the last one should be somewhere 31. Yeah, it is 23rd basically. So if there are the 5 days fence, they all should be automatically formed here. Now what I will do is basically I will go to my master planning. And yeah, I'll select the master plan. Basically, I can select anyone. Okay. Let's click enable auto firming. Now you have to be aware about this, that if you want to have the auto firming, there is a feature. Okay. I think I should show it quickly on that. Feature management. Very quickly. And what I'm trying to see that from a feature management, what are the things I've enabled for the master planning? Auto firming for planning optimization is the feature. Basically, you need to ensure that is enabled if you want to work with it. There are different other things, but they are relevant to different stuffs. So that's important. I've already enabled for my environment. Once you enable that, you will be able to, get the switch. You should be able to run the functionality. I just want to ensure that I want to filter just my item. in order to speed up. And then I click. And what it does at the background, right? It looks at the planning. Basically, engine looks at the data. It basically will look at the coverage group setting for it. And once it's basically looking at the time fences for all the demand, it should basically complete it. So there is message. I'll clear all. And we'll go to the planned orders. I will select the type plan. That's what I used it. I'll just filter on my item. Keyboard. Once I'm filtering, I should be able to see there are like plan transfer orders created here under the Dyna plan. And I could also go to the view firming history to look at, like what are the firm planned orders, and that basically should be able to show me the firming date and everything around here. So feature management is auto firming planning optimization. Then basically once that is enabled, your configuration is right, you basically are able to auto firm those orders. The next part is to basically go into the master plans and how do you run the planning optimization service, right? And basically if you want to cancel it, what can you do? So what I'll just do is duplicate this in order to show you. So you can only cancel the planning optimization service job once it is running, once it is completed, you don't have any options to cancel. So let me demonstrate here. I will click on master planning. I'll just select static plan this time. Ensure I don't have any filters, just so it gives me a long time there. And if you want, you could run in batch also, like it honors the batch processing. So that's where to set up a recurrence and all. Not using it for the demonstration. We'll click OK on it. And once it is running, I can go here in the history. And it says me that that's currently processing. Once I click on that, I am able to cancel it. I'll just cancel it now. It takes some time basically, and not much of time. The thing is, once it is cancelled, you will see that in the screen there is this hash log basically. If it is yes, you can see the log file and you basically are able to view the warnings or any errors within that. Not all of the history will have logs. So it's only like those where it will be an errors or something that would be having a log into it. It should not take this much time. Yeah, so it's done. Okay, yeah. So basically it's cancelled. Oh, what did it fail? There is something issue here. Handle access. Okay. So I'm sorry for this. I don't know what it is. Is this something related to my machine or environment? But I'll show you the previous one which we have cancelled. So once it is cancelled, we'll click on the logs. And the log should show you like different kind of warnings and issue around it. The most of the things is what it is showing here is that the order type production set production feature is not enabled. So changing it to order type. So these are the some which we already know when we run the planning analysis that it does not honor the BOM lines. So with this, basically, I am concluding the demos here, but we'll move into the roadmap slides. Just going forward. So what we want to talk is basically the planning optimization roadmap. So the idea here is that there are two paths to journey. The existing built-in planning engine is in progress. At some point, we would basically stop investments in it, and at later point we'll stop the support. So that's when it will be deprecated. But if you see the path around here that we have pilot customers moving to planning optimizations, once we have the public brief for distribution, we will be releasing it on the GA. We want the customers and partners to ensure that customers are moving along with the progress what we are making, to ensuring that they move to the planning optimization engine and have all the capabilities. And once the additional planning features are also made available, it will keep on extending and improving. We like customers to follow and align that part to ensure that they are moving to the new service, and at some point we will deprecate the planning built-in planning engine. So support for production is in place now, but for limited set, as everyone mentioned, there are additional production features which are getting planned. Okay, throughout the 20 and beyond it, like explosion, MRP2, subcontracting, lean, and Kanban, just to mention. The other part, what we want to look at, planning optimization functional enhancements are being done. So if you have negative on hand, it's treated as 0 because the planning assume just 0 to avoid any oversupply. Plan filters, as I explained, in isolation between any plans, so that can be honored at the runtime. Auto firming is based on orders. The important thing to understand the difference, right? If with the traditional or the built-in MRP engine, it's always the requirement date, and it goes backward, and then your firming time frames has to be more than the lead times, right, to ensure that you are able to do that. But planning optimization service basically will look at the order start date, order date as the start date from today basically, and not the requirement date. So it happens within the due time, and basically you don't need to include the firming time frames for it. Yeah, there are different resources in here, okay, which will be provided as links within the Tech Talk once it's published online. And thank you very much. So I think we can look at the Q&A. If there are any questions?
Yeah, let's take a look to the Q&A. When you're sharing your desktop, okay. Yeah, thanks for asking questions. That's major important for us to see what kind of questions we need to answer, and what is in your head that helps us to move the product, to move the functionality in the right direction, and creating FAQs. So thanks for raising questions. Do not stop. I just scrolled through the chat and saw some questions around the architecture, and there was a good question around how we are going to copy data out, if a data management framework or data lake is going to be used, and definitely no, that's not gonna be used. So we're not to have export projects like we do have at the moment to replicate data in the BYOD, or no triggering into a data lake. We are going to access directly the IXDB in the background on SQL Azure backend. Okay, so you do see no load on your environment, which you do see at the moment when you're executing data management framework export projects, and that's the reasons why you do not have the opportunity to use a tier 1 environment, because tier 1 environments are using a local SQL server and not a SQL Azure, and it's not in our property. So that's something which is important to know, and that's one of the reasons. There was one question about on-premise. So this service is and will be a cloud service only. So you will not be able to host this service inside your on-premise properties. That's not the plan. What we will do is we are thinking about getting on-premise connected to the cloud server so that you can go and use this service which is in cloud, but you will not be able to run the service in cloud I'm sorry, on your local business data. There was a question around the 1 up to 2 minutes execution duration, and yes, this time is including the data replication. So the bulk copy is included into this minutes. Yeah, check docs article that's shared on the presentation. There was a question on security. By the way, that's a good one. To share, I mean, security is one of our most important requirement we do have, and we are taking care that every data which is went out and this goes into our service is following our security best practices. So that's, for example, the reasons we are using the LCS add-in to manage the security in the background, so that there's no way for partners or to customers to mess up security rules we have to have. So yeah, that's important. The public preview will be announced quite soon. So just stay tuned. We are talking about weeks here. So we'll be there quite soon. And that's the reason, there was error messages where BAM got on the screen. And that's the reason why we are in preview phase, and there's a good reason why we are in preview. So with our, we're trying to ship quality, and we only go public preview, or trying to go public preview, when every bugs and every issues are mitigated.
Just to add that, right, this planning service, there is no bifurcation between test and live. It's the same, and that's why it's important to have tier 2 environment, tier 2 and above, because it works on the Azure SQL DBs. Yeah. Okay. Any
other question in the chat?
Yeah, I think what there was another question, when is the planning to enable the same integration for third-party competitors, non-micro planning? Yeah, so the aim is to allow you to basically connect to the external data also in order to. But that's in the roadmap and WIP, okay? So there is no timings at the moment. But as you stay tuned with the pre-program, and soon, basically, you will be hearing how we are progressing on it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I think the most questions got answered. Thank you very much for joining the Tech Talk.
Thank you very much from the Microsoft team here.
Stay tuned on the subject, and yeah, thanks again for raising questions. Happy to speak to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining, and if I could please ask everyone in the audience to draw their attention over to the chat window where I've posted a link to a short survey. Our presenters would love your feedback and greatly appreciate you taking a moment to fill out that survey.